all know Shana, right? Yeah. Ashland born and bred? Ashland born and bred, right? Went off to the big school in the sky, Bulldog Yale, and came back and was a Phil Killian directing fellow working with Bill, and then a couple seasons ago, as you all know, directed Love Flavors Lost on the outdoor stage, and yeah, it was terrific, right? This is where our association on this project began.
Yeah, that's right.
On my dining room table, where all scripts are cut at the Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and we were working like 7 to 10, 7 to 11, and I was like, why do we have the, first of all, you know I can't stay up that late, but I was like, why are we having these, she said, well, I'm waiting for the boys to get done with their rehearsals, and we're going to rehearse after that. I said, what are you rehearsing? She said, well, there's this musical, and I said, what's it about? She goes, So then I don't know. And she said, but there's something. And I thought, wow, night after night after night, she was leaving to go do this something. And lo and behold, they put together this amazing sort of midnight project, sort of full, I mean, it's like costumes, like you guys did, like
we went all out.
Yeah, right, we went all out that first time, right? And it was just sort of this amazing experience, and from that, it just caught on fire, and here we are like 3 years later, right?
Yeah.
3 years, whatever.
3, yeah.
Something like that, something like that. So I've asked Shana to just talk a little bit about it, and then, you know, this is a great opportunity for us to ask her some questions. It's just us, right? And how great would that be, huh? So, anybody seen it yet? First preview? The other night? Okay, great. All right, yay, all right. Are you all going to see it? You have tickets? Because it's practically sold out, right? Awesome. Love those small theaters. Anyway, by way of introduction, Shana Cooper.
Thank you, Louie. So that fateful summer, I threw myself at Louie's mercy to join us on this project because I knew we were deeply in need of her smarts and wisdom and dramaturgical mind, and she joined what is a group at the time was a group of 4 creators, now 5 creators meaning writers, and 5 guys who have been very dedicated to telling this story of why we use music in our deepest and darkest times to find hope, to find light, and the power of singing a sad song in your darkest hour to own it, to transform it, and to survive and carry on in the future, whether you do it through your own life or through the story and power and history of the song. And concretely, the play follows a group of soldiers who are condemned to death in an enemy prison camp, and they sing the historic blues number, the St. James Infirmary Blues, to find courage and dignity and camaraderie in their last moments alive on earth. And the music is extraordinary. It basically follows the history of American music, anywhere from blues and gospel to Americana, hip hop, and you start to see how the origins of all of that music goes back to the same places, which has been one of the fascinating things. So it's really a huge, just love letter to American music, I think, in a lot of ways, that exists in this very strange, dark, almost Alice in Wonderland type dreamscape that grows out of the imagination of one of the soldiers, and I think in a lot of ways out of our communal American imagination. And so I'll just read a quote that is a quote that has been sticking with us throughout the last year in particular that we've been working on it, just about music, about the power of music and why it's important in our lives. And it's from a speech that was given by a man named Carl Polnack. He runs the Boston Conservatory of Music. And in it, in this speech, he was talking about his favorite musical composition, which is Quartet for the End of Time. And it was written by a French composer, Olivier Messiaen, when he was in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II. And he wrote this particular quartet at that time. So Polnack says, given what we have since learned about life in the Nazi camps, why would anyone in his right mind waste time and energy writing or playing music? There was barely enough energy on a good day to find food and water, to avoid a beating, to stay warm, to escape torture. Why would anyone bother with music? And yet, from the concentration camps, we have poetry, we have music, we have visual art. Why? Well, in a place where people are only focused on survival, on the bare necessities, the obvious conclusion is that art must be somehow essential for life. The camps were without money, without hope, without commerce, without recreation, without basic respect, but they were not without art. Art is part of survival. Art is part of the human spirit, an unquenchable expression of who we are. Art is one of the ways in which we say, I am alive and my life has meaning. And in this play, we see a man faced with death, ready to die on his knees. And through music and through art, he finds the courage and strength to stand and look it in the face and create something beautiful on his way out. That's a little something about it. But the rest you just have to come and see because it's kind of impossible to describe. For those of you who have seen it, you have an idea about what I'm talking about.
Went down to St. James Infirmary, crossed the alley from Old Joe's bar, bought a shot from each spot for my troubles. But ain't nothing can cure this old heart.
Let's talk a little bit about St. James Infirmary Blues.
Yeah.
Because it's inspiration musically, obviously,
Yeah.
but also story.
Yes.
Why? So you want to talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, St. James Infirmary Blues was originally based on a standard from Ireland, actually, The Unfortunate Rake, and it traveled across the seas, came to America, and it was basically about a soldier. Originally it was about a sailor, eventually it was about a soldier who comes home and finds death waiting for him. Basically comes home and finds that his beloved has died. In the original song, it's basically of an STD, I think. She's dying from syphilis or something. But the idea that you've been off fighting a war and then you come home, death is waiting in the form of disease in the person that you love, but then really singing about the way that you want to go out, that we're all going to die, but when we do, I want to go out with a fabulous party, basically, is the gist of the song. And so, in a way, I guess you could say that by singing the St. James Infirmary Blues, Joe conjures to life an incredible party that sends him on his way into what could potentially be his last hours at the end. I mean, I think there's a variety of ways to read into it, but go out singing, go out celebrating, go out looking great, go out standing pat, as we talk a lot about as one of the lines in the song, versus standing on your knee, or going out on your knees, standing strong, full of dignity, looking fabulous, and be able to look death or whatever that force is in the face. The exciting thing about working with so many creators is you basically have, whereas you usually have one playwright and thus one imagination that is crafting what the world is, in this case you have 5. And so there's challenges that go along with that, as you can imagine, but there's also great gifts because the world is more rich, more full, more diverse in terms of the influences than it would be if it was grown out of one person. All of this music grows out of very similar roots. And once you start to hear it all together and the way we organically within the piece flow from one style of music to another, you're not actually always aware that you're moving from gospel to hip hop, actually, which actually happens in the course of one song. And so in the same way, I think once we just embraced that, it seemed like there are elements that have existed since World War I that just continue to evolve a little bit, but those objects, those items of clothing, they still exist in our world. And so you just can find the things that essentially feel true to human beings then and now. And I feel like that music does that naturally once you're able to listen differently, because I feel like we often feel distance from it, or I'll speak for myself, not having been a huge rap hip-hop person before I got involved in this project, that there's a way in which sometimes you put up boundaries that you don't even know you have the minute a kind of music comes up. But actually, if you're invited into the music through a type of music that you already feel comfortable with, or your ears already appreciate, you're ready to listen in a different kind of way. And I feel like that happens as an audience member in this piece.